Between November 15th and November 18th, more than 300 Iranians were killed during protests sparked by a hike in petrol prices. The government shut down the internet and blamed the killing on thugs, agitators, and foreign agents. A spokesman for Iran's judiciary said the bullets that killed people did not come from the service weapons of Iran's security forces. As internet access gradually came back, videos filtered out, making it clear who was doing the killing. An examination of more than 750 videos and photographs provides evidence of repeated and widespread killing of unarmed protesters. By Iran's police, the Revolutionary Guard, and its paramilitary branch, the Basij. The announcement came overnight. Petrol prices going up by as much as 200%. Protests started that Friday in a handful of cities. The response was swift. In the southern city of Şirvan, protesters set fire to a petrol station.
People were angry. They gathered in a square on the edge of the city. They moved toward the petrol storage depot, and one man tried to climb the fence. Security guard shot him in the head.
It was the first death. The anger spread to more than 100 cities on Saturday, according to state media. A near-total national internet shutdown was put in place, with access by the end of the day at just 7% of ordinary levels. The most intense protests were in poor neighborhoods. Near Tehran, that means suburbs like Shahryar. Armin was in the protests when things turned violent.
It was mostly police at first, then young Basijis, barely 18 years old. They had Kalashnikovs in their hands. I saw the death of 2 men and a woman.
The woman was hit by a bullet in the back of her head on the corner of Valiasra Street. She died instantly. Our observer, Armin, told us her name was Golnaz Samsami. She was with her 8-year-old son when she was killed, on her way to the medical lab where she worked. Other videos clearly show who was shooting in Shahryar that day. Take a look at this video. Protesters throwing stones, advancing on 2 uniformed police officers. The muzzle is down. These are not warning shots. So where did this happen? Take a look at this building. There's a sign, Andish Mandan. A search for that name on Google Maps in Persian brings us to a school in Farmandari Square. A photo online shows the same lights and the same sculpture. A second video appears to show the same officers a few seconds later. We know it's in the same place. One of the officers tries to stop a car. The officer shoots. A man falls. Another video shows a different man on the ground, shot in the head. It was filmed 25 meters from the point where the officers first fired. It's impossible to know whether this man was shot by the 2 officers. There's no indication of when in the day the videos were filmed. They do, though, show that police officers were shooting and people were dying. Our observer Armin says the hospitals in Shahryar were full.
اینجا بیمارستانه امام سجاد شهریار. اون فیلمی که اول فیلم گرفتن 3 نفر بودن تیر خورده بود تو سرشون.
Head wounds, limbs shattered, signs of live ammunition fired from military weapons. Amnesty International has documented dozens of deaths in Sharia between November 15th and 18th.
Most of the protesters were young men in their 20s with no money, no jobs and no hope. They want to see an end to the Islamic Republic and were ready to lose their lives.
Marivan is an ethnically Kurdish city in the west of Iran, near the border with Iraq. Gunshots, people throwing stones, and a body lying in the street. This was on the city's Jomhuri Street, with its distinctive benches, fences, and lampposts. There's a pedestrian crossing and a building with red awnings. The video was filmed here. A few hours earlier, the exact same spot had been peaceful. But now it's a battle between citizens and these men in black. Who are they? In Iranian cities, regular police generally wear green uniforms. Black is reserved for the riot police, belonging to the elite Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, and their paramilitary arm, the Basij. The IRGC and the Basij are issued with non-lethal weapons designed to control crowds without killing. These men appear to be wearing the same helmets, though there's no sign of the non-lethal weapons. They are just 160 meters from a Basij base well known to locals. As the day came to an end, Jomhuri Street was on fire. At least 9 people died in Marivan, some buried in these makeshift graves on the edge of the city. In Sadra, a suburb of Iran's 5th biggest city, Shiraz, there was little doubt about who was shooting.
بسیجی‌ها رو می‌بینید که رو سر ساختمون دارن تیراندازی می‌کنن به سمت مردم. روی سر ساختمون حوزه مقاومت بسیج.
صدرای شیراز 8 نفر تا حالا کشتن. بسکشا دیگه تیر. بالا پشتمون دارن میزنن.
The Basij's base in Sadra is called Shahid Tavana. It shares a compound with the Sayyido Shohada Mosque. Its volunteers here celebrating the anniversary of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution. 2 videos document victims within meters of the compound. The first shows the body of a man lying just in front of the building. You see the same roof line, the same gate. The second shows a chaotic scene. A body on the ground. Then a group of people carrying someone. And then another group with another victim. A composite of different frames from the video allows us to confirm the location, the profiles of the buildings, the ridgeline of the mountains, and a container. 4 victims filmed within 10 meters of the Basij compound. Amnesty International has documented at least 6 deaths in Sadra. There's no estimate for the number of people injured, but we were able to talk to a nurse who works in the region. Her account is consistent with reports from medical personnel around the country.
I work in an ICU in the Shiraz region. We have 8 beds in the unit, and all of them were filled by protesters injured with major gunshot wounds, not pellets from shotguns. They're all young men in their 20s. Most of them came in on the two worst days, Saturday and Sunday. We saw all kinds of injuries, in the lung, in the leg. We have some legs and hands that are going to have to be amputated. Police officers came into the unit every 6 hours to check on the patient's condition. They wanted to know when they'd be ready to leave. The police filled in forms for each injured protester. They wrote them in as thug or agitator, meaning that their care isn't covered by Social Security. They're going to have hospital bills of more than 25 million tomans. They're poor and they're young. How are they going to pay?
The IRGC's deputy commander said it took the security forces 48 hours to put an end to the unrest. The Interior Minister gave an 84-minute interview about the protests.
نیروهای زخمی و مجروح و مصدوم شده ما در حوزه نیروی انتظامی و بسیج و امنیتیمان 2 برابر نیروهای مصدوم شده است که در این حادثه مثلا آسیب دیدن. 2 برابر. این بحث خویشتن‌داری واقعا.
He didn't say a word about any deaths. The internet blackout made it impossible for Iranians to share what they had seen.
I took lots of photos and videos, but the internet was shut down, so I couldn't share them online. In the end, I had to erase them because even now, police in the streets are stopping people and checking their cell phones.
Internet connections started coming back after 5 days. But the return was gradual, and 2 weeks after the outage began, 2 provinces were still cut off. Internet service started coming back to Khuzestan on November 30th. And on December 3rd, this shaky video emerged online. Jarahi is an Arabic-speaking area just north of Mashhad, a key port on the oil-rich Persian Gulf. 2 days earlier, the New York Times had revealed a previously unreported incident in which they said IRGC troops fired on protesters who had sought refuge in a marsh near a suburb called Chamran, 18 kilometers north of Mashhad. A composite picture using frame grabs from the video reveals an unfinished construction project. Next to a flat, vegetated area, tall street lights indicating a major road, and a building in the distance. A search for potential marshes near Chamran led us to this area, this road, and this structure. The video was filmed from here. Here's the road, the marsh, and the building. The pickups were here. The first one equipped with a machine gun. The biggest military presence in Mashhad is the IRGC Marines, responsible for security along the sensitive Persian Gulf coast. A former IRGC Marine told us the vehicles seen in Chamran and in another video filmed during the protests in Mashhad resembled pickups that had been used by his unit, equipped with what he called a dushka, a Soviet-designed heavy machine gun. Local people told the New York Times and other media that dozens of people were killed in the marsh. Military experts say that when aimed at a concentration of people, heavy machine guns like dushkas have only one purpose: to cause maximum casualties. Internet access was finally restored in Sistan and Baluchistan on December 5th. But for how long? In Parliament 3 days later, Iran's president talked about expanding the country's internal intranet and reducing dependence on the external internet. That raised fears that the next cut to the internet could be indefinite.
What if they cut access again? Imagine this time for 6 months or forever. No one will know what they are doing to us in the Islamic Republic, and that's horrifying.